name here that I wanted to check on, and you're going to laugh at me, but it's almost, I want to ask you the question. How exactly does ServiceNow fit into infrastructure software for a true developer, for a true director of engineering like yourself? I kind of want to understand how they moved from a giant ITSM SaaS play into the DevOps world.
They started asking different people to the golf course. ServiceNow, for me, is a company that does well on the golf course and very poor at implementation. And for boots on the ground, it is it's your worst nightmare when the VP comes back from a trip and says, "Hey, guess what? We're doing ServiceNow." It's like, everybody's gonna hate it. I'm gonna hate it. It's gonna be hard. It's gonna be expensive. We've gone through it ourselves. Not happy with the outcome. And it kind of is what it is, because you get into that situation where the investment is so high that executives tend to be afraid of moving away from something they're already so far into.
Yeah, they're certainly incredibly well entrenched too, if we switched over to the enterprise
Absolutely.
application side. Now, do you think any of that negativity could possibly bleed over to them on the ITSM side with all of the emerging players?
Absolutely. But ServiceNow does a really good job of making the end user satisfaction of their product not really be a key metric for the success of their portfolio. And I think that's all about how they're going to market and what they're buying, what buying centers they're aggressive with. If you had decision makers closer to where the work was happening, I do not think you would see the market penetration with ServiceNow that we see today. But they do really good at selling promises to the C-suite.
And I just wanted to just check on, looking at sort of back into the emerging technology names. Here's some of the names that we see in the automation space. Besides HashiCorp, which we spoke about, I kind of want to point out this huge increase in LaunchDarkly and again, Sonar Sauce. Are these type of names that you think are kind of on your radar?
Yes, so we are using both of those. Sonar is primarily for identifying bugs and code coverage. So it tells you how good are you at writing tests and validating and finding issues in your product before you put it out to customers and let them do your testing. So more and more companies are seeing the ability to have a point in time metric number to assess the health of an application. While it's not a perfect picture, it's something that we can guide by. So there's a lot more effort involved into utilizing that product. And then with everybody pushing into the SaaS first or SaaS only category, things like LaunchDarkly are going to be very important for controlling emerging features where your developers are moving fast and shifting left, but you're not necessarily ready to unlock that value for your customer yet. And I don't think there's anybody in the feature flag space that is anywhere close to what LaunchDarkly has to offer.
I appreciate that. And real quickly before we move on, where do you think they'll be taking share, or is it just net new? Like you just said, there's nobody really that's doing it. So will they be taking share from established players, or is this just a greenfield for them?
Greenfield. Most companies I know of doing feature flagging are still using things like commenting outlines or releasing from side branches that don't include those lines at all. And LaunchDarkly's solution is the most elegant, that where any engineers with experience in that platform, it translates to new opportunities if they were to choose switch companies.
Well, forgive me for jumping around, Jeff, but I'm really enjoying this conversation. And for our listeners out there, real plug, if we're not getting deep enough for you, we can try to figure out a way to get you in touch with Jeff for a paid consultant call. He's fantastic, and I think he deserves it. So just a quick plug for him. Quickly, you mentioned ITSM, ServiceNow, also some of that negativity possibly creeping in. And I went over to the emerging names that are playing in ITSM space. We're capturing some real growth here with Espressive and Moveworks mostly showing the dominance. Any of these on your radar?
Moveworks, for sure. We were early adopter of Moveworks, I believe when they were stealth, and have been growing our investment in that category ever since. The natural language processing AI bots are huge. It brings in ticket deflection for your support teams. It brings the power of knowledge bases and support to chat ops where you're already working, so you don't have to context switch out to get additional information. And while we initially launched MoveWorks with an eye on IT support, it's now also providing valuable insights on how to find data dashboards and data analysis and getting real data-driven decision-making across the entire organization made easier by interacting with the MoveWorks bot.